Hello and welcome to Destination Draft Day, your one-stop shop for all things pro, college, and the NFL draft. Nick Durst here, Michael Rockman, myself, and we are going to be talking to you about the NFC South today, one that features the Super Bowl champion, one that features the rebuilding Carolina Panthers, one that features the now Drew Breesless New Orleans Saints, and one that features probably the hottest talking point of the week, and that is the Atlanta Falcons with the newest Julio Jones trade. First and foremost, Nick, how's your Monday going?
I'm sorry. We couldn't have timed this out any better. It just happened to be that we were doing AFC South today, and I mean it's perfect. And we had to bring in a big NFC South guy, someone who is a Falcons fan because he loved playing with Michael Vick and Madden. Maybe he's gonna change his fandom. I don't know, but I'll bring him in now. He is the host of Johnny VTV Live every Tuesday, sometimes Thursdays at 6 p.m. The Gambling Guinea. Here he is, Michael, a disgruntled, disgusted Atlanta Falcons fan because he thought they were going to try to win now. They're going to try to win later. Here he is, Johnny VTV.
What's up, boys? How we doing?
Doing all right. How are you doing? That's, I think, the more important question right now.
Well, you know what, man? I'm actually not doing too great. I got the news. I was on my way to brunch yesterday. It was like, I was fighting that little, Saturday night went kind of late. Sunday, it was a little recovery day. Woke up, went to get a little brunch, and then my buddy texted me, goes, "You're sick right now." I was like, "Why?" He goes, "Julio's going to Titans." I was like, "Bro, come on, let's stop." Go on Twitter. He's to the Titans. I almost got into a car crash. Like, I was pulling in the parking lot. I don't even know. Like, I almost got into a car crash. I'm like, I don't even know what to think, dude. I have so many emotions right now. I will say this, though. I'm done with the Atlanta Falcons. Final straw, no more. I'm a free agent. Somebody come get me, just like Earl Thomas.
Wow.
I'm done. Finito.
We can see that, I think that's a very common feeling, is that Julio Jones is probably one of the greatest players in Atlanta sports overall, not just the Falcons history, but the overall Atlanta landscape, probably the best of the decade by far, and really just what he brings to the table for any fan that was rooting for the Falcons in the, early 2010s is now heartbroken because this guy is just a superstar, arguably one of the best at his position, arguably one of the best in the NFL, just overall talent-wise. And now we are watching as the Falcons start their new era. And yes, there's pieces that are staying behind. Matt Ryan's going to be here this year. There's older pieces on the defense that are being brought in. But really, this is going to be a new Falcons team. Not everyone's going to be happy about it. And I'm sure Johnny's not the only one that's going to be moving on from the Falcons after this move.
No questionable. There was no questionable about it. He's still the best receiver in football. He's probably the best receiver in football. Probably. Come on. He's the best receiver in football the last decade. Like, it's not even close. Like, he's Don Julio. He's an absolute prince. And you give him away for a carton of Marlboros and a fruit cup. Like, I don't understand it. It doesn't compute because the Atlanta Falcons, like they always do, are a pathetic, half-assed, backwards organization. How could you say bring in Arthur Smith? He says we're in win now mode. He brings out Dean Pease from retirement, who's in his 70s. Why would you bring a guy like that out if you have plans to rebuild? Then they go and draft Kyle Pitts. I'm like, okay, like we're off to a good start. New GM, new head coach who had a lot of success, was a big reason for why the Titans were able to do what they did the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Draft Kyle Pitts. You keep Matt Ryan. You extended him. You said, all right, we got him for another 2-3 years, whatever. And then you turn around and you trade Julio Jones. Like, how does that even go hand in hand? They half-assed the rebuild. They half-assed the win now, and they're going to pay for it because I love Matt Ryan to death. I love Julio Jones to death. But, dude, if you're going to trade Julio Jones, it should have been in your plans from the get-go, and then you draft a quarterback. Or if you didn't like anything, trade back. Do something because you're on the hook for so much money for Matt Ryan later. It doesn't make sense. Like, they completely fumbled the bag. They just – bro, two jerk-offs, incompetent, they got to go. They're already taking their first L before they even step on the field. It doesn't make a shred of sense. I'm fed up. I'm disgusted.
If they would have gotten a first-round pick, would that have been an easier pill to swallow?
It would have softened the blow a little bit, but like it still is. It's stupid. It's stupid. Like cap space, that's a myth. We know that the Rams hand out $90 million contracts to every other player like it's party favor. The Saints were $50 million over the cap. They managed to get under in like a week. And now Atlanta, it was obvious that they had no interest in trying to work through this. Like Terry Fontenot comes in, Arthur Smith and Julio Jones share the same agent, Jimmy Sexton. So when Arthur Smith came in, he had to know that Julio was looking to go somewhere else. And he still took the job, and they could have made something work, or at least said, listen, play the season out. We'll deal you after. I could have lived with that. This I cannot live with. You have a great offense with a guy who finally may have half a brainstem since Kyle Shanahan that's calling the plays for the Atlanta Falcons. And then you don't even give that offense a chance. You don't give them one season to do it together. I don't understand it. I really don't. And that's why they'd be lucky. I'll tell you what, they're going to be lucky to win 6 games a year over the next 3. They will not see a second contract. I can't wait. I hope they get double tapped in year 2. Next year, I hope they're gone. They're pathetic. Pathetic.
Michael, what do you think about the return? I don't think there was any way they were going to get a first. So they got the second. What do you think about the second and the fourth pick there?
Yeah, I think the compensation is about what we expected just because of the questions about Julio's durability and age. Obviously, the talent's still very much there. When he was playing, he's putting up some great performances. The big question, though, is, were they able to find a team that was willing to take on the whole contract? And the Titans, have been reported that they are very much going to be taking on everything. I think what sucks about it for the Falcons and, their fans especially is, guys like Sanu were traded for a second. They traded a second for Hayden Hurst. So Julio is obviously a different type of player than someone like a Mohamed Sanu, who was underrated at the time, or even like a Hayden Hurst, who was not producing at that level to where he was even really worthy of a second-round pick. So really, I think those times of trades for Sanu and for Hurst were probably over trades, and then this one's kind of more reasonable, but it makes it harder to swallow because, when you're comparing it, it's like, come on, Julio is obviously a different type of player compared to those two. And I think many would even consider saying they would rather have Julio than Sanu and Hurst combined. So it's tough to really accept that this is probably the right value. But with the situations with tight cap space in an offseason like this, the situations with knowing that the Falcons almost had to make a move of some sort in order to really free up some space and get some money, it makes sense for why this was the value that the Falcons got. It's just not fun to watch if you're someone who really loves Julio and loves the Falcons.
The whole thing was here, though. This was not the only move they had. They backed themselves into a corner when they could have drafted them, they could have decided what they were going to do, what direction they were going to go in. They're half-assed rebuilding win now, like I just said.
Yeah.
They could have made a move and traded them before the draft, got something for them, maybe a first-round pick this year. Before the draft is when teams are going to overpay a little bit more. And I'm saying, listen, Julio's a first-round pick. The Titans fleeced the Falcons. And any idiot that's saying, oh, Terry Fontenot got a win because he's not paying any Julio's contract. Bro, he got 90% fleece in his first acquisition as the GM of the Falcons as opposed to 100% fleeced. Like, I'm like, the incompetency, it's just ridiculous. Like, I don't understand how this is not a cap space issue. This was the cop out. That's a cop out, in my opinion. It is not a cap space thing. They could have done anything, including extend Grady Jarrett to free up some money. Who Grady Jarrett is young, and Aaron Donald's in a tier by himself with the interior lineman or D lineman overall. Grady Jarrett's that next tier right below because Donald's right by himself. But like the Chris Joneses, the Fletcher Cox, those guys, Grady Jarrett's in that tier. And he's a guy you want to keep. So you could have freed up some money that way or do something, convert some signing bonuses. Just play around with it.
What does this mean for the future of Matt Ryan? I don't think he's happy about this. And you always pointed out John on your show, Johnny B TV. Check it out on his Twitter and YouTube page. He's got a great co-host and another co-host who likes to play video games on the show. But check out the show. But you always say, Matt Ryan, the window is closing, but this guy he's an elite quarterback here. What do you think the future holds here beyond this season here for Matt Ryan? Are they going to maybe say, oh, we're going to suck because that's what you're projecting, and then do they say, all right, let's try to get our future QB here? Maybe we trade for Jordan Love from the Packers or something. What do you think the Falcons are going to try to do at the quarterback position after the season?
I think what they're going to try to do is I think this is their team. This is their team. They're going to sign their draft picks officially. They're gonna shove this roster out there. They're just going to let Matt Ryan try and help Pitts develop. They're going to have Calvin Ridley come out, be a wide receiver one. He's been a wide receiver one. Now he's officially the guy in Atlanta with Julio gone. He's a stud. I love Calvin Ridley. I'll always love Calvin Ridley, always love Matt Ryan. I'm really excited for Kyle Pitts. But this is just let's have Matt Ryan get us through the next couple of years. Maybe somebody comes out in the draft this in 2022 and we'll draft him and then we'll sit there. The thing about the Matt Ryan train is, listen, I still think he's top 5. Nobody's convinced me otherwise. He's the most disrespected quarterback in the last 20 years. Even the year he won MVP, among his peers, he still barely cracked top 10 overall in NFL top 100 the following year. That just goes to show. He is one of the best quarterbacks.
Hall of Famer.
I think he's a Hall of Famer, even without a ring. He's still in top 5 in my opinion. People put like Dak and Lamar and Josh Allen over him. Like, come on, stop. Let's stop. Matt Ryan's about to have his 10th or 11th straight 4,000-yard plus passing season, put up numbers, get no help on defense, have a defense that's bottom 5 in turnovers or takeaways, bottom 5 in sacks, and probably top 5 in points allowed on defense. So what I think he's going to do is he's going to go out, put up some numbers. He's going to put his team in position to win like he's always done. Because don't forget, he played a lot of games without Julio this past year. He played 9 games with Julio, 2 of which he left the game early. So really 7 games he played with Julio. A couple times he's had his team in position to win and the defense falls. Last second, look at the Lions game. Told Todd Gurley not to score. What does he do? He scores on the next play. Defense allows a 90-yard drive. Matt Stafford for the win by 1. So Ryan's going to do that, but Atlanta can't expect anything.
The defense has got to be scaring you. I mean, you're not a Falcons fan anymore, so what do you care?
I'm done.
They didn't do anything.
I'm done.
Michael, we go through every team. We look at the offense and the defense. So, I mean, John kind of addressed the offense a bit, but why don't we talk a little defense here? We can always circle back to the offense.
Yeah, so the big thing about the defense is trying to figure out what young pieces are going to really step in and take that next, part of that defense and really progress it forward. AJ Terrell put together a very strong rookie year. They have Richie Grant now in that secondary as well with Deron Harmon, a very underrated, versatile safety piece to be in that secondary, which I think is huge. The big question now is that second cornerback spot. Can Kendall Sheffield or, some of the other options, maybe Moreau or Oliver, really step up and be that second corner to really solidify the secondary? But the issue for such a young secondary is the lack of pass rush that is also there in Atlanta. And Dante Fowler was given big money, and maybe, in Dean Pease defense, he'll be able to kind of progress a little bit and make some better strides. But that issue of pass rush has been a problem for Atlanta for quite some time now. Even in the draft, they didn't really address it. They got Ogundeji later. They got Taquan Graham, who's going to be more of an interior guy. So the big question now is, can Dante Fowler really step up and earn that contract? Because if they aren't able to get pass rush, then it makes the job immensely harder on the cornerback unit. I know that you can manufacture pass rush. I know that there's ways that you can do it with scheme and all that, but at the same time, you need guys that are able to get to the passer. Grady Jarrett's a great defensive lineman on the inside, but interior pressure is not the only way you need to win. You need to have some guys on the outside that are able to capitalize on the collapsed pocket that Grady Jarrett's going to create. So if Dante Fowler can step up, if maybe Ogundeji can put together a solid rookie year, then this defense can really start to see some things get going. And while, yes, there's still a lot of question marks, and my money probably wouldn't be on the Falcons' defense to really take major strides, I think as long as you can find some of these young pieces to really take those next steps, AJ Terrell continues to grow and progress. Richie Grant puts together a good rookie season. Someone steps up and is a dependable corner to where they can either be that long-term cornerback 3 or maybe even step in and be that cornerback 2 for the long-term future. Then that's huge strides to this defense, and we'll be able to see that offense that's still going to produce even without Julio, and maybe that Falcons team can really pull out some more wins than what we got to see last year where they ended up picking 4th.
What do you think, John, about that defense there?
Dude, it's going to be the same thing. They're going to suck. Matt Ryan has never had anything better than a slightly above average defense in his career. In 2016, when the Falcons went to the Super Bowl and they had the Keanu Neals and the Deion Jones coming to town. Vic Beasley had a great season that year. That was probably the best defense he had. Next to that was probably the 2012 defense when they blew a 17-point lead to the Niners in the NFC Championship game. Like, Matt Ryan's never had a defense. It's not going to change. The Falcons haven't had a real good pass rusher or a real pass rusher, aside from Vic Beasley's one, what do you call it? Out of the norm 15 and a half sack season since John Abraham. John Abraham was the last guy, and he's been out of there. I don't think he even played in the 2010s in Atlanta. Or if he did, it's maybe 2010, 2011. So, I mean, the realistic expectation hasn't changed. Matt Ryan is going to have to score close to 30 points a game to have a chance to win every week. And now he's going to do it without Julio Jones. And now he's going to do it without Alex Mack. So his line's been good a couple times in his career. He's the most sacked quarterback, or one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the last 3 or 4 seasons. Like, he's up there with Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, which ironically, the guys he's up there with are the guys that like to hold the ball and move around. Like, Matt Ryan sometimes gets in trouble. He holds the ball sometimes. But what I'm saying is the Russell Wilsons, the Deshaun Watsons, I forget who else was up there. They're mobile quarterbacks. They're guys that like to, actually run around. Ryan's not that guy. He just gets no type of help. And now he's got no Julio. So, I mean, do you know who their wide receiver 2 is? Olamide Zaccheaus. Or if you have Russell Gage, you put him in the slot. Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts. You got Hayden Hurst. Like, they don't have a wide receiver 2. So now I want to see, how they're going to combat that. Like, obviously Kyle Pitts he's not a tight end. Like, the guy's just not a tight end. He's like how Jimmy Graham and Gronk was, but faster and maybe stronger back about 10 years ago.
Right.
But if they don't score 20, I would say probably 25 to 25 plus every week.
So new year, new regime, same story. Looking at their schedule, Michael, they got the Eagles in week 1, so that's definitely a winnable game. So everyone will be like, "Oh, see, we don't need Julio Jones. We beat the Eagles. Eagles are going to stink this year, I think."
They barely beat them last year or the year before. They barely beat them. I was at that game actually when Julio caught that 4th and 3rd screen that took it to the house.
Then they got to play the Bucs week 2, which is not going to be easy in Tampa Bay. And then they got the Giants the following week, which could go either way. I would give a slight advantage to the Giants there defensively. Then they got Washington, followed by the Jets. So, I mean, there are some winnable games there in that first, batch. But the long haul, I don't think it's going to be too good for the Falcons this season.
No, they'll lose to the Jets. By the way, because everybody's so excited, we're going to go play abroad in London. Stupidest thing ever. Stop the
Germany's coming next year.
It's so stupid. I can't stand playing abroad. It's the National Football League, not the World Football League. Because guess what? Now with this, and even dumber, and you know how I feel about this, the 17-game schedule. Now the 17th game, the AFC team gets an additional home game. So guess what? Atlanta now volunteered to go, or whatever. They got assigned to go. They give up one of their home games. So they're playing 7 home games, 10 away. Are you kidding me? I mean, bro, I just can't. It just reeks of just pathetic everything. I love Arthur Blank, the owner. He's first class all the way. I think it's Big Home Depot guy. I think it's everybody below him, like Terry Fontenot, Arthur Smith. I already hate him, and they haven't even.
Poor guys.
Had game 1. I hate them. I hate them both. I want them gone. They're incompetent. They're jerk-offs. They're not winning more than 6 games a year over the next 3 years. Book it. I want them out of town. I'm a free agent, though. But I'm upset. I'm upset.
We shall say, John, you got to go. We appreciate you coming on. So the rumor is on your show tomorrow, and tell everybody where to go, where to find that. You might announce your final candidates, or at least the primary candidates for who's going to be your new team moving forward here.
You know something? I actually may. As Nick mentioned, I have a great co-host, and he is right in the middle of your screen, Mr. Nick Durst. You can find Johnny V TV live Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern time, sometimes Thursdays, depending on how the schedule works, also at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Find it on my Twitter at _JohnnyVTV or my YouTube channel, JohnnyVTV. And yeah, listen, I may start rolling with the wind here, who I'm going to follow in the future. I mean, don't call me a bandwagon fan, by the way. I don't want none of that. I've been a diehard.
How about the Bucks?
Years.
You're in Tampa, right?
I'll tell you what. Yeah, I do live in Tampa, but I'll tell you what. I will not become a Bucks fan until Brady leaves. I'm not. I don't follow Tom Brady.
Kyle Trask fan. I dig.
I could be a Kyle Trask guy in the future.
All right, maybe. check out the Gambling Guinea at Gambling Guinea on Instagram. He's got his nightly bets there for baseball, and he'll be giving you all that betting action come the fall for football.
Also, one more thing. Everybody tune in tomorrow because we have a very good guest. Should we wait? Should we tell them or should we wait?
Let them know. We're gonna go across
all right. One of the hottest and most profitable baseball betting writers from the Action Network, Mr. Killer Kevin Davis. He's coming on tomorrow. He's going to talk a lot of bets for Tuesday baseball as well as Wednesday.
All right. Well, we look forward to that, John, and thank you for coming out. I'll have to have you on again down the road. Appreciate it.
Boys, appreciate it. Have a good one, and good luck.
Take care.
Take care.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
So, Michael, as you can see, the Falcons fans are not happy.
Yeah, not enjoying it. And, I think the big expectation this year, in year one under Arthur Smith, while I'm sure they'd love to see the win now happen that Arthur Smith talked about, that Fontenot talked about, I think the big thing is trying to maybe not have those games where the Falcons end up choking so many games that they had in the bag. That's what Atlanta Falcons have been about for about the past 5 years or so, where they've just had these games where they look like they're in position to win and they just blow it. It's not just 28-3. It's really just so many games throughout the course of the season that it's just become a habit. So under Arthur Smith, if you're a Falcons fan, I think the expectation, while you want to see anything record-wise that's good, I think the big thing is winning the games that you have under control would be absolutely huge in that first step to really get going under this new Arthur Smith era.
Certainly, and we will see what happens there. Falcons, fortunately, looks like they're trending down, and I think the Saints are trending down as well. So it's going to be an interesting division here this season.
Absolutely, and a team that's kind of trending up is the Carolina Panthers.
Yep.
But I'm sure we have a little bit of a different opinion of their acquisition at the quarterback position.
Oh, yeah.
You're not a Sam Darnold guy. I still have hope for him. I think there's potential. Losing Curtis Samuel in the offseason isn't great, but they were able to add Terrace Marshall, David Moore, and Shi Smith in the offseason process, adding in Dan Arnold at the tight end position. The big question mark, in my opinion, when it comes to this Carolina Panthers offense is the offensive line. Greg Little didn't really show a lot of potential in his first season. There's been guys added like Brady Christensen that I'm not super high on when it came to the draft process. Taylor Moton, Matt Paradas, they're very good, but a lot of question marks for the interior guys at the guard and left tackle, which could cause some issues for Darnold and for this Panthers team as a whole.
Yeah, we're going to see here, the Jets and the old saying for the Dolphins back in the day was suck for Sam. But then it became suck with Sam. So, Darnold never had these weapons around him. Just give him McCaffrey. That's a big upgrade to anything he's ever had in his lifetime. The Panthers, we both liked what Rule did last year. They fought hard. McCaffrey barely played. Bridgewater got hurt sometimes. Walker was in there. And they showed that, they have a foundation here that they could perhaps, build something here long term. There's a lot of pressure on Darnold. I don't want to hear there's no pressure. He's in Carolina. They traded for him. They picked up the option, but this could still be his last year because if they find themselves in the top 5, top 10 of the draft, I think they're going to pick a quarterback and they'll move on from Darnold to, at that point, would then be viewed as damaged goods, Michael.
Absolutely. I think this is definitely a last chance scenario for Darnold. If things don't work out in Carolina, very likely he's going to end up somewhere where he's just maybe a backup role where there is an older starter and there's hope that he could potentially step in, but most likely we aren't going to see anything too dramatic in terms of future opportunities for Sam Darnold. And, with Joe Brady, Matt Rule, I think I understand it. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, CJ McCaffrey, the weapons are there. Yes, the offensive line is still an issue, but I think this offense is going to be schemed much better to where Sam Darnold really has to show strides in order to hold down this position. Otherwise, he's looking at a backup position for most of his career unless some lucky stars line up for him later on.
Yeah, certainly there. But, Panthers offense, for the most part, as long as McCaffrey is healthy, should be able to put up some points, Michael.
Absolutely. And, the weapons in Carolina are extremely exciting. Even Dan Arnold, the tight end, is going to produce in some games. And then you have some weapons that have plenty of potential with Marshall and David Moore at that wide receiver 3 spot. I think the offense can really get going. Joe Brady is one of the better offensive coordinators in the NFL, and he offers plenty of potential as a play caller that could help Sam Darnold make some major strides in his first year with the Panthers. But I think for a lot of Panthers fans, what you need to kind of expect is to treat this almost like it's Sam Darnold's rookie season. And as much as you want to see him have this great, 30 touchdown season, maybe limit his turnovers and just show great strides overall, this is almost like an entirely restarted career for Sam Darnold. So you have a shortened contract and you maybe don't want to see, some rookie mistakes by a veteran in the league, but Sam Darnold is pretty much getting a new start, and I think it's going to be best if you have some patience for what he does in this first year.
Yeah, I think you're going to need a lot of patience with Sam Darnold. So, again, it's crazy. We always talk about the key to success with so many of these teams is how does the young quarterback play. This is really the case with a lot of the teams in this division, and more importantly here with Sam Darnold.
Absolutely. On the defensive side of things, there's plenty to be excited about. While the defense maybe doesn't have the most top-end talent in terms of names, they have plenty of great pieces that are young and rising in the league. One of their best players, Brian Burns at the edge position, should be in for a great season. Hassan Reddick added to the opposite side with Yeturgos Matos in his second year. Derek Brown, Daquan Jones on the inside with Bravion Roy. Davion Nixon picked in the 4th round, who I think was an absolute great get. The linebacker position added Denzel Perriman. At the cornerback spot, they added J.C. Horn. The big question mark in my mind is just the secondary at safety. You look at Justin Burris at that free safety spot isn't ideal in my mind. So I think they're going to be a team that maybe needs to find a free safety next offseason. But right now, what they've been able to show, what they've been able to really create with this roster so quickly under Matt Rule with Joe Brady, and just seeing these young pieces come along, Coach Snow doing an excellent job as well with the defensive guys.
Yeah.
There's plenty of promise there in Carolina, and in NFC South that really a lot of the teams are pretty old and maybe not going to last as long as a lot of some of the other younger teams in this NFL. It's a great opportunity for Carolina for their window further down the road.
Yeah, let's quickly look at their first 5. So right away, Darnold playing the Jets. Games in Carolina, unfortunately, though. But, that'll be an interesting test. Wilson's going to be nervous. Darnold's going to maybe try to make some crazy throws he shouldn't to try to shove it to the Jets. So could be an ugly game. Saints in week 2. We'll see what happens there with Jameis. We'll talk about them momentarily. Then you're going to play the Texans. Who knows who's going to be at the quarterback position for the Texans. Then they play the Cowboys, and to wrap up the first 5, they will take on the Eagles on October 10th. Michael, what do you think you're going to see happening there to start the season for the Panthers?
Yeah, so these first 5 games, you kind of have some question marks on the schedule. Obviously, Dallas seems to be the toughest team. New Orleans, though, plenty of question marks as well. A lot of these teams are really just going to come down to things that we don't really know yet. What's Jameis going to be like? What's Saleh going to have this Jets team as in week 1? Is Deshaun Watson going to be the QB for the Texans? Is Dallas going to be fixed in their defense? What's Jalen Hurts going to be playing like? But based on what we know right now, I don't think it's crazy to say that the Panthers could start out 3-2 to start out these first 5 weeks and really get off to a good start, whether that's wins against the expected, Jets, Texans, Eagles, or maybe they're able to steal a game against the Saints. And, if things are really cooking, maybe they're looking at 4-1.
Yeah, it'll be interesting there. Middle of the season, more games that are winnable. They're playing the Vikings. They're probably a little better than the Panthers. The Giants, we don't know how that's going to go. They're playing the Falcons. Talk about the Falcons. They're playing the Patriots in November. That could be a Mac Jones game. We don't know. Cardinals, They're going to lose to the Cardinals most likely. They got the Washington football team, the Dolphins, who have question marks. So that's the middle of the season. The end of the season is pretty brutal. They're playing the Bills, they're playing the Bucks, they're playing the Saints, and they're playing the Bucks again. So if you have any chances of making the playoffs, they better have a great record going into those last 4 games.
Yeah, and there's some games on here that you could see a potential surprise. Going back to that Week 4 matchup, we saw Sam Darnold put together a great performance against the Cowboys when he came back from mono. The Jets looked like they were potentially going to turn things around. We could see some of those outings again against teams that he has confidence against already. There will probably be some of those same issues, though, when you look at a game against New England where Bill Belichick has already gotten in his head that way. So we could see some issues where Darnold maybe struggles with his confidence. That's going to be the big thing, though, for Joe Brady and Matt Rule is to build up Darnold over the course of the season, get him through these games with confidence, improve his play, limit the turnovers, and really just try to make sure that confidence isn't wavering from game to game like that has been an issue with the Jets. Sam Darnold that we got to see. Sorry.
No doubt about it. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on that. Fortunately, Michael, I need to go to work now, but you get to stay here and do the fun stuff. I'll give my predictions real quick on this division. I have the Bucks winning the division. I will say tough. I'll say the Saints finished in second place, missed the playoffs. Panthers in third. And the Falcons will be in last place. And we could be looking at 2, maybe 3 teams next offseason looking for the new quarterbacks. So wouldn't that be wild if we have 3 quarterbacks drafted all in the same division next season?
Yeah, it'd be quite interesting. And I'm sure that there's going to be some QB interest for at least one of these teams. But most likely right now they're all in on their QBs that they have. So we'll see how it plays out. Going to be interesting to see, but I'll let you go, Nick. Take care at work, and everyone here watching, hopefully you're willing to stick around with me.
We'll see you front, everybody. I'm leaving you. You're in good hands with Michael Solo. It's great. He's going to give you the really in-depth draft analysis, and he's going to knock out of the park here with these next 2 team analysis. All right, Michael. It's been a pleasure as always. See you next time.
So, back on the Carolina Panthers, I don't want to completely just go over them because we didn't talk about them as much. But after those first 5 games, Minnesota Vikings, I think, is a game where they're going to be in hot water. I think the Vikings are going to come out a lot stronger this season. Zimmer has really done well with defense in his entire career. So last year, I feel like is a very strange type of season. Injured on the edge, cornerback issues. So now with Patrick Peterson added, with Daniel Hunter back and healthy, I think the Vikings are going to be putting on some great performances. And so that's why I think, you're looking at 3-3. That next span of games, though, New York, Atlanta, New England, Arizona, Washington, while I don't think that they're automatically the favorite in all those games, I do think that these are all games that are possibly winnable. I think they lose to New England just because Bill Belichick has seemed to have Sam Darnold's number. But I think you look around at teams like Arizona. While Arizona is a team in my mind that could very easily make playoffs, I think they are a team that is prone to having those slippage of games. And we could see Carolina really take that game and really get on to having a good record at this point. I'm not sure that I see Carolina Panthers as a winning record team, but if Sam Darnold is able to take the step that he was traded for that reason, if he's able to be the star QB that they hope for, or at least just a very good one, then this Panthers team has a lot of potential. But the offensive line is going to have issues, and so teams like the Washington football team very likely are going to have their way with Carolina because the pressure is just going to be too much, and Sam Darnold's going to have some issues. Whether he makes the same turnovers or not, we'll see, but still just issues overall. The end of the season is not great. Buffalo, Tampa, New Orleans, and Tampa again. So I could see Carolina kind of being in the hunt spot at that, point week 12, and then just kind of falling off after that. So for the Carolina Panthers, though, what I want to see is progress from Sam Darnold, pieces on the defense, really taking those steps to solidify themselves as long-term pieces for this defense. And then just overall, I want to see how this team continues to compete in games. We saw it last year where Matt Rule really had these games where the Panthers were overachieving. Now in year 2, you don't want to just see overachieving. You want to see continued growth with overachieving. So it's hard. The expectations are probably going to be a little bit higher than they should be, but it's perfectly reasonable. And I'm sure Matt Rule has the same expectations for himself. We'll see what happens. But we got to move on because we don't have a ton of time left. So we're going to talk about the New Orleans Saints, one of the most well-constructed rosters in the NFL, a very talented defense, very talented offensive line. The question mark, obviously, is what's going to happen at QB. Personally, I think that Jameis Winston is going to run away with this job. I know Taysom Hill started last year whenever Drew Brees was out, but I think that Jameis Winston is the long-term answer at the quarterback position, and he's going to be the long-term starter for the season. Will he limit his turnovers? It's similar to Darnold in different ways. I think Darnold had confidence issues in terms of just not feeling confident when he stepped up to the line, whereas Winston, I think, just had too many times where he trusted his arm way too much. With a guy like Sean Payton, it's hard to really have doubts about a QB that has as much talent as Jameis Winston. But the big thing is, can he really unlock what Winston is capable of being? While Winston may not be the fastest QB, he has one of the better arms in the league. He can absolutely put the ball wherever you need it. He just needs to be smoother with his play-to-play, progressions. And with Bruce Arians, every first-year QB in an Arians system is prone to having more turnovers than they usually would. So for a turnover-prone QB like Winston being thrown into a system like that, it resulted in the 30-30 season that was mocked, endlessly. But there's still plenty of potential for Winston to cut back on those turnovers immensely, maybe even cut it in half with the Saints, putting it at 15, which still isn't great, but it's a lot better. And, putting up 35 touchdowns, I think it's a very reasonable expectation with the 17-game season that's going on. You have a piece like Michael Thomas, which I think is going to be absolutely huge. He gets to kind of open up his game a little bit. He's mocked as the slant man for the times with the New Orleans Saints where he's very good underneath. And I don't think it's a necessarily bad thing to be great underneath like Michael Thomas is, but I do think that he offers a little bit more than what we got to see because Drew Brees wasn't as great a downfield passer as he was the short and intermediate game in his later part of his career. So with Jameis Winston, someone who likes to throw the ball downfield, I think you'll see Michael Thomas really step up and have some bigger plays. Alvin Kamara, I think, is going to be in for an extremely phenomenal season. But the big question mark for the Saints is who's going to step up after that. The wide receiver spot is really kind of questionable because they have Traquan Smith, Marquez Callaway, Lil Jordan Humphrey. There's pieces that could potentially step up, but I don't look at these guys and say that they are someone that gives me comfort at the position. So really, I look around the league and I think of guys that could potentially hit the free agency market and maybe someone like a Jamison Crowder. If the Jets move on from him, try to create some more space after the preseason and cut Jamison Crowder, I think the Saints need to be all in on him because you're trying to get weapons that can really help out in this offense. And I think Winston needs those guys. And Crowder, while he does have a lot of slot capabilities, which what we've seen from Michael Thomas may kind of overlap, I think Crowder is a good enough receiver to where both could coexist in that same offense and succeed in very similar ways. I was expecting the Saints to address the wide receiver position, but I do think that Callaway and Traquan Smith have enough talent to where they'll have moments where they produce at a high level. But I think they still need to add a piece, and that's going to be the big question mark is there someone that hits the market that's available for them to where they can really do that? On the defensive side of things, plenty of talent that had to hit the market, Malcolm Brown, among other pieces, but they still have Cameron Jordan. They have David Onyemata. They have Marcus Davenport. They drafted Peyton Turner, someone that I was very high on. Didn't expect him to be a first-round pick, but all in all, very excited to see that happen for him. The big question mark is what's going to happen to replace Trey Hendrickson. I think Peyton Turner does that well, maybe not at the same production level as Hendrickson put up last year, but I still think there's plenty of potential there for him to solidify himself as a defensive end for this team. The linebacker unit is young. Pete Werner and Zach Bond are definitely maybe not the same as the Quan Alexander that you had last year, but Pete Werner, to me, was one of the safest options in the draft, and I know that he was not a first-round pick. I think he was picked in the second, maybe third round, but he was athletic. He was smart. He made great plays in every facet of the game, well-rounded player. While he may have been limited in his overall ceiling, Pete Werner, to me, was the absolute safe choice in the draft, and the Saints absolutely hit a home run bringing him in. Zach Bond is going to be exciting in this season with really some potential added. The big question mark on the defense for me is what's going to happen at corner. Can Marshawn Lattimore really step in and become that next great corner? Some corners have issues when it comes to Chris Richard's scheme. I think Lattimore is good enough to where he'll be great, but they need to bring in another corner. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is really going to be a slot type of guy. Paulson Adebo is a rookie who could be very good, but I think it's important that they bring in someone. There's been lots of talks about Richard Sherman. I hope that does happen. But for the Saints, there's plenty of reason to be optimistic as long as Jameis Winston can be a solidified starting QB. Looking at their schedule, things aren't easy to start out. They look at the Green Bay Packers in week 1, which will be a great game. Both teams having plenty to prove. I think that this is a game that if the Saints can win this, they're going to be cooking with gas. If they can beat Green Bay in week 1, I think they go and beat Carolina week 2. I think they beat New England week 3. I think they can beat New York week 4. And I think they can beat Washington week 5. Now, they may have a slippage in that, and they may be 4-1. They may lose to Green Bay, and they may be like 3-2. But as long as you can get out to a strong start, compete in all these games, show that you're a good team, continue to have your dominance that you've had, then you're off to a good start. After that bye week, things do get difficult. You got Seattle, then Tampa, then Atlanta, which maybe isn't as difficult, but still you never want to dismiss a division rival, and then Tennessee in week 10. So that 4-game stretch is going to be tough following the bye week. I think they can beat Seattle. Seattle kind of has those games where they come out flat, and I think that's one of those games where they very well could. Tampa's kind of an interesting situation because over the course of the regular season, the Saints were dominating Tampa Bay. And I don't think it was coincidental. I mean, we saw it in playoffs where the Bucs were able to come in and win, but I don't think that just means the Bucs are going to dominate them going forward. I think we could very well see the Saints split with the Bucs this season. I think the Bucs, I'll talk about it a little bit later when we talk about the Bucs specifically, but I think the Bucs are a little overrated when it comes to what they'll do in the regular season. And for that, maybe the home game against Tampa Bay is the one that they'll be able to pull out. And if they're able to do that, that's absolutely huge for them. And I think New Orleans is a playoff team, but let's go through the rest of the schedule. Philadelphia, Buffalo is going to be a tough one. Dallas will be a tough one. New York, Tampa again, obviously a tough one. Miami's a tough one. Carolina and Atlanta. Like we said a little bit earlier with some of the other schedule predictions, a lot of it is going to come down to things that we will have to just monitor and see. But for the New Orleans Saints, the roster is still very good. I understand when a team loses their quarterback, it's easy to just kind of assume, everything is going to fall apart now. But that's not the case. The Saints have one of the most well-balanced rosters in the NFL, a very successful offensive line, a great running back, a great wide receiver. The defense has plenty of potential and talent. So for me, I still look at them as a wild card team. And as long as Jameis Winston is able to make some major strides in terms of cutting down those turnovers, which should happen with the new scheme not being as difficult for him and a year to learn it as well, then the ceiling for the Saints is still a Super Bowl contender. And I know that's crazy to say because a lot of people are kind of dismissing them, but the roster talent is absolutely there. They just need to really get some things to fall in the right place for them. Now, my reasonable expectation for them would probably be about 11-6, 10-7. And I think as long as they are showing to be competitive in those games against Buffalo, against Tampa, against Green Bay, against Seattle, then that is a major step in the right direction. And as they head into playoffs, anything can happen. And for the last team of the NFC South, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the reigning Super Bowl champion. I talked about it a little bit earlier, so I guess I'll just talk about it right away. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers season, I think that a lot of people are overestimating just how good they're going to be because there's been a lot of times over the course of last year where Tampa just didn't look good, just straight up. Even in the playoffs, they had their issues. So while they had a dominant Super Bowl, while they were able to be the Super Bowl champion, while their defense is very good, while their offense has plenty of talented pieces, while they have Tom Brady, who is my favorite player of all time at QB, you're still going to be seeing some slip-ups from this team. You're still going to see some games where they come out flat and people are saying, what the heck happened? So in this schedule, they start out with Dallas Cowboys, who I think they can beat in week 1, then Atlanta, 2-0 in my mind. But then they play against the Los Angeles Rams, which I think is going to be a loss, and have them at 2-1. But then they beat New England, beat Miami, and they're 4-1 heading into week 5. I think they beat Philadelphia, beat Chicago, but then lose to New Orleans and have themselves sitting at 6-2 as they head into the bye. Then I think they lose to Washington this time around, beat New York, lose to Indianapolis, beat Atlanta, lose to Philadelphia, and then win out against New Orleans, Carolina, New York, Carolina. And that has them at around 12-5. Again, I understand that a lot of people are looking at the Bucs as this dominant team that's going to just, mow over the NFL. And they very well could. They have the roster to do it. No team usually returns all their starters following a Super Bowl. And this was absolutely huge for them. They added pieces as well in the draft with Joe Tryon. There's plenty of reason to have hope for them. Adding O.J. Howard back after his injury, there's going to be a lot of excitement around the Bucs. But I don't think that they're just going to completely wash the NFL. And I think it's probably better for them as well. Tom Brady, as he gets older, it's better kind of to have this guy have some issues over the course of the season. Maybe don't go all out. We talked about it with the Patriots whenever they were undefeated. And they've had guys come out and say that they were just entirely exhausted after being as dominant as they were. And they think that if they had lost a game over the course of the season, that Super Bowl wouldn't have been close. And I'm not saying like, the Bucs should lose games on purpose, but I'm just saying that for the Bucs, I think it's important that you realize that there are going to be games that they just are not this dominant Super Bowl team like we saw in the Super Bowl where they were able to slow down the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Are they still a Super Bowl contender? Absolutely. And I don't think that anyone's wrong for having them as the favorite. But in my mind, their regular season of 2020 showed that there's still going to be some slippage. There's still going to be some games where they don't absolutely dominate. And there's still some issues with this team that will need to be sorted as the season goes along. All in all, though, the NFC South is going to be extremely exciting. And if I'm a Buccaneers fan, my expectation is still just, get back to the Super Bowl and hopefully win it. The roster's there. The momentum's there. And now it just comes down to what happens over the course of the season. Can they stay healthy? Can they continue to play well? Personally, for my prediction of the NFC South, I have number 1, Tampa Bay, number 2, New Orleans. But I think that 1 and 2 battle is going to be very close. At number 3, I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers. At number 4, I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons. I think there's a reason to argue that the Atlanta Falcons could very easily be up in 3, maybe even up in 2 if Winston's not playing up to his capabilities. But there's plenty of reason for being optimistic about the Saints there. So NFC South, going to be one of the more exciting divisions with plenty to watch. Even if you're watching the Falcons and you're already disappointed about Julio, there's still Calvin Ridley, who's going to get his chance to be the number 1 guy all season long. There's Kyle Pitts, who's an exciting piece in that offense and a very exciting rookie prospect. The Carolina Panthers, we get to see Sam Darnold without the Jets and Adam Gase shackles on him. The New Orleans Saints, we get to see the new Jameis Winston era for New Orleans. And for Tampa Bay, we get to see if magic can happen again as they return all their starters. Can they make it back to the Super Bowl? Plenty to watch in the NFC South. And as the season goes along, we'll be here to talk about it here on Destination Draft Day. We want to thank everyone in the comment section and thank everyone on LandryFootball.com for giving us a platform to speak on. Thank you to Johnny and Nick for being great co-hosts today. Thank you to everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on Friday. Take care.